Good morning, class. My name is Genevieve Pelones, and I am the first reporter for today's discussion. And again, we'll come to listen to of our discussion, and our listen to is all about the Chinese literature. And we're going to tackle about their fiction and their poetry. And so far, we're done discussing about their poetry, right? Yes, we're done with that. So let's move on to their fiction. And our topic is all about the butterfly lover. The butterfly lover is a Chinese literature, and it is set in a Eastern Jin dynasty. And the cast of the butterfly lovers are Zhou Yingtai, Liang Shenhua, Ma Wenshai. Zhou Yingtai is a girl who disguised herself as a man so that he can intern in the school she really desired, while Liang Shenhua is the lover of Zhou Yingtai in that story. And Ma Wenshai is the fiancé of Zhou Yingtai in that story also. And the Butterfly Lovers Orchestra is Violin Concerto, was written in 1958 by He Jian Hao and Zheng Gang while they were still students at the Shanghai Conservatory and first performed in May the following year. Are you familiar with this word? I know that you're all familiar with this word. Word. It is a love between two persons or three. And they said that love is considered as one of the most fabulous and mysterious projects between humans. And even some scientists pointed that love is just a kind of chemical reactions, that there are always millions of people pursuing it dodgily. Like famous writers and poets of all ages and countries compose a lot of excellent love stories which are very familiar and popular around the world. And and we all know that Romeo and Juliet is one of the representative of that kanang word love. And also the status of butterfly lovers, which is also well known in Chinese folk legend. It is also impressed from the generation to next because it is all about it is talk about the lovers who love each other but can be together while they are still alive. And however, the background of the story of the butterfly lover is and the characterization and the tragic dimension are distinct. And we will know that while watching this video.
Adjusting her disguise, Zhu Yingtai prepared to bid her parents goodbye. She had always been a dutiful daughter, staying home and creating works of embroidery that brought her parents pride. And yet, although only boys were allowed at the Confucius Academy in Hangzhou, what Yingtai truly wanted was to go to school. She begged her parents to let her attend dressed as a boy, and seeing her determination and clever disguises, they finally agreed. However, they only gave her permission when she promised to keep her true identity a secret and eventually return to the traditional path they'd set for her. Elated, Yingtai began her journey to Hangzhou. On the way, she found herself at a crossroads, unsure which route to take, when a young man approached. As their eyes met, they shared an instant connection. Yingtai learned that his name was Liang Shanbo and that he'd be her classmate at the academy.
Yes.
So they walked the rest of the way together, wrapped in conversation. Yingtai realized that despite her meticulous disguise, she felt that she could finally be herself. The two decided to celebrate what they thought would be a long, close friendship and became sworn brothers. At the academy, Yingtai buried herself in books and studied with Shanbo late into the nights. The two felt at home so long as they were at each other's sides. They shared a room, but even though Shanbo questioned her about it, Yingtai always used the bathroom alone and buttoned her thick robes up to her chin, no matter the weather. Now and again, Yingtai heard students muttering about her secretive behavior. As months slipped into years, Yingtai continued to excel at her studies and felt like her past and intended future were lifetimes away. Yet the whispers grew louder, and after 3 years, she had no choice but to leave. Parting tearfully, Yingtai asked Shanbo to visit her. When Yingtai returned home, her parents announced that the Ma family from the neighboring village had sent a matchmaker to ask their permission for Yingtai to marry their son. They'd found it a fitting match and accepted. Trying to hide her disappointment, Yingtai honored their agreement, but as she prepared for another new life, she thought of Shanbo. Meanwhile, he too was distracted. his studies dull without Yingtai near. When Shenbo finally visited Yingtai's house, he came upon a young woman. He was about to ask for her brother, but as their eyes met, he recognized the young scholar he'd always loved. Shenbo knew he couldn't stand being separated from Yingtai again, and asked her to marry him. But heartbroken, Yingtai told him that she was already promised to another. Shenbo was devastated, but he understood that Yingtai had to abide by her parents' wishes, and they parted again. Shenbo fell ill and grew weaker by the day. Worried, his family sent a matchmaker to the Zhu family, but because of Yingtai's current engagement, her father refused the proposal. Doing otherwise would bring their family public shame. Shenbo's illness took a turn for the worse, and sensing he wouldn't live to see her married, Shenbo wrote Yingtai a final letter. If Yingtai loved him, he asked that she burn incense in front of his tomb when she was on her way to the Ma family. When Yingtai's wedding day came, it also felt like a funeral. As the procession wound through town under stormy skies, Yingtai broke off and knelt in front of Shenbo's tomb, lighting incense and offering sacrifices through her tears. Suddenly, a clap of thunder sounded above, and a lightning bolt shot through the tomb, fracturing the stone. Without hesitation, Yingtai threw herself in. As her parents rushed to rescue their daughter, two butterflies fluttered out of the crack. This time, Yingtai had transformed for good. Finally free, she could float forever with Shenbo at her side. Would you travel to the underworld to save your one true love? Or stay with them after discovering they were a demon?
So that's the
Dig into
story
these
of the
two myths,
butterfly
one
lover.
tragic and one
I hope
triumphant.
that you all heard it and love it. Differences between Romeo and Juliet and the butterfly lovers. First is Romeo and Juliet, who come from the two Italian families which actually are sworn enemy. They meet they meet each other coincidentally and fall in love at first sight. And the barrier prevents their marriage is the feuding families but they die for their love. While the butterfly lovers happens in China, and the two lovers become uh, two butterflies upon their death. And Romeo and Juliet is kind of naive and inexperienced that reader can feel romance from them. They have more spirits of rebellion and follow their natural instinct, never accommodate themselves to the feudal ethics. While in Butterfly Lovers, uh, Zhu Yingtai and Liang Shanwu there shows more respect or more aspect of frailty and compromise due to the Chinese social background in a way that Liang accepts the fact that Zhu is arranged to marry a rich man and he dies for his broken heart instead of taking some measures to resist it. Although the endings of Romeo and Juliet and the Butterfly Lovers seems to be the same, they are still quite different. The former is a character tragedy. Western tragedy pays more attention to the accidental events and the consequences that personal fault would cause. On the contrary, Chinese tragedy focuses on the plot inevitability and influence of the powerful forces. The Butterfly Lovers is more likely a social tragedy, reflecting contradictions between the advanced youth and the feudalism social system. Love is an everlasting topic. Romeo and Juliet and the Butterfly Lovers are both odes to youth and love. They are similar but not the same. Okay? They are almost similar but not the same. And because of the distinct and that's because of their distinct cultures, there exist differences in the backgrounds, characterizations, and the tragedy dimensions.
The earliest written of the butterfly's lover is traced back to about 700 AD, when the Empress Wu Jin-chan, 624 to 705, reigned over the Tang dynasty, and it was renamed as the restored Zhou dynasty. The book itself, 10 volumes in total, described the landscape and cult of the Chinese Empire at that time. So the Butterfly's Lover, it is has a 10 volumes in total and describe into a landscape, and it was describing as their cultures from the Chinese Empire at that time. So the butterflies lovers was created in 700 AD. Wow, that's too long. It is all um, those years. I know it will be amazing that the story was created in 700 AD. So it means um, the Christ is not exist at that time, and it was amazing that the story is existing as is exist until now. Okay, the story is entirely glossed over, attests to the long history and the popularity of the tale. It must have been so well known at that time, the author deems it unnecessary to recount the story. A slightly expanded version is found in 19th century. Though written in the concise manner somewhat resembling a chronicle, it tells the bulk of the story and anchors Zeus' loyalty and bravery. The butterfly's lover's metamorphosis, however, is only brought into the story in the Ming Dynasty. So the butterfly's lovers has expanded their versions found in the 19th century. Okay? And it was a concise manner as resembling of a chronicle. So the story of the butterfly's lovers or the two lovers is anchored to the loyalty and the bravery of Zeus. Okay? As the story became more fully developed, Zu, the heroine, became dominant character of the two. This perhaps has something to do with her rebellious spirit. After all, no ordinary girl would demand to go to school in an era where literacy and knowledge were denied to girls, forcing her to live among men and pretend to be one of them. So the butterfly's lovers is to become dominant, or Zu, I mean rather, is the heroine and become dominant character of the two. Okay? This perhaps has sometimes to do with the rebellious spirit. From the word rebellious spirit, he reincarnate as I mean it rather she he she's not reincarnating herself, but um he rebel his spirit not into the body of the human, but he became a butterflies. That's what the story is called the butterflies lovers, because Zoo become a butterflies when he jumped into the grave of her loved ones. Okay? The disguise immediately bring her to Molan, the women warrior who praised for her bravery and courage. Okay? The moment when Zoo throws herself into the grave is ended moment of empowerment. Okay? From the word when Zhu threw herself into the grave is ended the moment of empowerment. Okay? When Zhu jumped into the grave to follow her loved ones because her loved ones is died, okay? The empowerment of the rules of human will be um, will be ended because um, he against he against the rules of humans because um, she has no because she has no choice to choose her loved ones. Okay, next. Her act or last gesture of defiance is boundary breaking of on the multiple levels. By stepping into the grave, she not only transgresses all the norms and expectations from a from a patriarchal society that binds her to her family and marriage, but she also breaks down the boundary between this world and the next. Okay, her act or his last gesture of defiance is boundary breaking because her parents has decided to give him an arranged marriage for her, although he against this for this arrange of her, I mean, for arranged marriage for her. Okay. And the expectation of the patriarchal society that binds her to her family in marriage, but she also break down. So yun, he break down the law of the human, or he break down the boundary between this world, because he has no choice to choose who loves her or loves her to herself, but also in that time there is no freedom to choose who wants to be loved and who be loved to ourselves. Next, even life and death are no longer matter in face of her love. In this regard, the butterfly metamorphosis, though a much later addition, seems a rather logical and proper one. As the barrier between word classes, why not physical boundaries too? Beside the butterfly's fluffy metaphor, after death, like the dormancy, it merged as something of great beauty, and its wings enable to it cross the barriers that it could not before. So even the life and death are no longer matter in the face of her love. He pursuing herself to choose their loved ones, even her loved ones had died because of um, because there is no hope for her to choose him, because her, of course, her loved ones will die. Uh, so he followed his loved ones to jump into the grave, and the story end as the two butterflies um, came up or come up to the grave, and they are freely um, they are freely to themselves to be loved as well. Okay. Last but not the least, it is worth noting that though the story is traditional represented as celebrations of heterosexual love, it is also subject to homosexual interpretations and recreations. So last but not least, it is worth noting that so from the word represented as the celebrations of heterosexual love. From the heterosexual love, it is the same gender or the same opposites for his love, because Zhu was pretending as a boy when his loved ones are identifying that he's girls, and then they develop themselves and they become lovers, or they become loves for her and his health. Also, a subject of homosexual interpretations and recreations. From the word homosexual interpretation, there is no possibility that the um, intersects from their body, and also they end up into um, a two butterflies came up into the grave. Okay. And recreations, from the word recreations, it is it is um, the the they live when they die, they live as one.
Thank you for listening.